Brill. So we're back for another People Make NNE, and I'm here today in your sunny garden, John.
It is.
Glad you brought the sun with you.
It is, in my lovely summer sun trap, as I call it.
Yes,
So
yes.
It's a nice bonus of the place where I now live. So.
Well, there we go. So we'll crack on.
Yep.
Can you tell us your full name, John?
I'm afraid it's just what it says on the tin. So it is just John Wiseman. My parents weren't very adventurous.
We've had so many unadventurous parents referenced.
Yeah. But I was christened John on the assumption that it remained John, because my dad was christened John and it got converted to Jack.
Okay.
So the assumption or the condition was John remained John.
So you weren't allowed to become Jack?
No.
Okay. How old are you, John?
I am 57. So I think I am the elder statesman of the team.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure whether I'm the
No.
eldest within the
No.
team, but it's a gentleman would never ask.
A gentleman wouldn't, but I have asked
A
everybody.
lady's age, yeah.
So I know for a fact that Jenny beats you on that one.
There you go.
So John, what do you do here in Nottingham North East?
I'm one of the ministers looking after, and I have to think about this, looking after 4 churches at the moment. So looking after Sherwood, which I've looked after since arriving here, looking after Thurgerton, which is a little community 10 miles heading up towards Southall. And for the last year I have also been looking after the 2 churches here in Hucknall, so Central and East Side, and I think from September adding Ravensworth Road.
There we go.
To that little mix. So my plate spinning will increase by a plate.
Excellent.
Yeah.
How long have you been kind of in this area?
I came to Nottingham in 2018, so this is year 3.
Year 3. Okay. Very good. So we've got a couple more years out of you at least here to see where you lead us.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Okay, we won't go there. Yes, God willing. So, how long have you been a presbyter?
Let me think. I came out of college and into my first appointment in 2008. So that was down in the Swansea and Gower circuit on the South Wales coast.
Very nice.
Having been promised by the principal at Wesley College that they were sending me overseas to somewhere beginning with S that had beautiful beaches, and I was thinking Seychelles, Sri Lanka. Turned out to be Swansea. So 2 years pre-ordination in Swansea and then another 3. Then I moved up north to the Stockport and Hazelgrove and Poynton circuit, and I was there for 5, and then I arrived here 2018.
Brilliant. So we've got 3, 5, 5, plus those couple of years at college beforehand.
Yeah.
That still doesn't take us a full working career.
It doesn't. And in many ways I've not had a full working career. I went to university and did a degree in biochemistry in Cardiff, and then worked for 2 years in Oswestry as a research assistant investigating bone disorders. I then spent quite a long time living and working and teaching either in Calcutta at a street clinic for destitutes, or having retrained as a physiotherapist, teaching physio at a spinal injuries unit in Dhaka.
Wow.
So there are large chunks of my life where I have been employed but not gainfully employed. So my my pension and my national insurance contributions are sadly lacking. And given the fact that I've been to college 3 times, that
backs up the debt.
That backs up the debt. So I'm working until I'm 104.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
I think that probably makes 2 of us.
Yeah.
Though I've got slightly longer to get there.
Indeed.
Wow, that's quite a bit of different stuff and quite a bit of travelling.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent an awful lot of time in India and Bangladesh. I would say from 1989, I worked in Calcutta for 3 years. I taught physio in Bangladesh for 18 months. I've been back every holiday for 20 years visiting families that I was involved with and lived with and projects that I was part of. It's probably only in the last 4 or 5 years that those links have started to drift a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, families that I have grown up with have now grown up and got families of their own. So the dynamic changes and the link changes and just the distance, and over time things just kind of ease. But with technology, we can keep in touch and chat. So yeah.
That's really interesting. Hopefully some more of that will come out as we talk. What did you bring for us to eat and drink together as we talk, and why?
Well, having seen some of the previous encounters that you've done, and having noticed the amount of cake you were given, and as we might discover later, cake is not really one of my favourite things. I thought I would go down the Indian route.
Ooh.
So we have got some little Indian snacks. We've got some samosas, some onion bhajis, and some mango chutney.
Now, are these homemade?
Of course they're homemade. I just wrapped them up in a Tesco's container last night, just so that you wouldn't be fearful of my homemade cooking.
Okay.
No, not homemade. The default would have been something from where I was born and brought up, which was Wigan, and it would have been a pie. But I wasn't quite sure, and I thought, well, I can go with this.
This is definitely different.
So we've got some Indian snacks, and we've got coffee, because that would obviously be my default beverage of choice.
Great. Well, let's dig in then, shall we?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had samosas at 10:20 in the morning.
Well, no, I did kind of wonder as a late breakfast, but I thought, there you go, we can sort ourselves out with that.
Right, should we crack on with some of these questions then? So you kind of hinted at it already. You've brought samosas and bhajis because you're not necessarily a cake man?
I wouldn't go out and buy cake. I do have a couple of secret cake baker and donors who will leave cakes on my doorstep, and they are gratefully received and disposed of in a reverential fashion. But it's not something I would go out and buy. I'm much more a savoury person. You know, a bag of Doritos or some samosas or nuts or things like that. So yeah.
I'm sure there are a lot of people who look at you and think savoury character.
I'm sure that I'm sure that's one of the things that comes to mind.
And again, coffee rather than tea.
Yeah, coffee rather than tea. It just always has been.
Okay.
I don't really know why. I think I'm quite fortunate that I can drink coffee all day and certainly drink coffee late into the evening, and it doesn't seem to affect my sleep. Having said that, I've never gone long enough without coffee to know whether it is seriously affecting my sleep. But no, it would always be coffee.
Tea in a pastoral emergency? Or just a glass of water?
I did the class at college of maintaining the poker face when somebody gives you a milky, insipid, non-sweetened tea. But it would be doing it for Jesus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amen. Jesus calls us to times of trial.
He does.
It's in the covenant service.
He does.
Favourite sport, team that plays that, participate or watch?
I like most sports. It's probably easier to name the ones that I don't like.
Okay.
You know, I couldn't watch motor racing if you paid me, or test cricket or horse racing. But given the fact that it's a summer of sport coming up, with football and then Wimbledon and then the Olympics, and then to culminate it at the end of the year, the Great Britain versus Australia Rugby League. So coming from Wigan,
it has to be league rather than union.
It's part of the DNA that it would be rugby league to watch, although never, ever, ever to play. because you get to a certain age where size matters.
Yep.
And thuggery comes into it, and
Yeah.
So those things to watch and to run. I'm what I call a pedestrian plodder.
Okay.
So I enjoy doing trail running. I'm not very good at it. I'm not very good at it. But I enjoy it because it just gets me out in the hills. And I always feel better having done it, not necessarily whilst I'm doing it. So that's me.
Okay. Now, I'm fairly sure this next couple of questions are dangerous questions.
Okay.
Because I've seen your DVD collection.
Yeah.
And I know that you've got subscriptions to everything.
Yeah.
Films.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favourite?
I couldn't have a favourite, it would have to be two. And
Okay.
they're both foreign language
Okay.
films. So one of them would be Cinema Paradiso,
Right.
story of a young boy growing up in a Sicilian town and his love of cinema. So
Okay.
for somebody who loves films,
Yep.
it's a film about what I love. And then the second one would be a Bengali film called Patha Panchali, which translates as Song of the Road.
Okay.
And again, it's just a beautiful black and white 1950s film about a young boy growing up in a Bengali village. And it just strikes so many chords because of the experiences that I've had, the families that I've lived with, things that I can just relate to.
Okay.
So, but anything that transports me somewhere else. I like a film that makes me feel
Okay.
something, whether that be a blockbuster or whether it be a melancholy or whether it be lots of dialogue or no dialogue or just film.
Willing to give most things a go.
Yeah.
Very good. Same question for music then.
Oh, music, again, it would be from ABBA to ZZ Top, really. I mean, at the moment, the things going through my head would be the new Will Young song, Elizabeth Taylor.
Okay.
The new Joan Armour Trading, called Already There. And something that I heard that I hadn't picked up on before, something by, I think her name is Sigala.
Yep.
And it's called Just Got Paid. And it's just the perfect summer song.
Okay.
So I've kind of pledged myself that every week when I go out in the car, I will have a different set of CDs.
Right.
So rather than listening to the same thing over and over and over again,
Yep.
I purposely will go, you bought that years ago, John. You've not, why? Why did you buy? Let's put that on.
Let's remind yourself of why you bought it.
Yeah. So this week it has been Keen and Bonobo and the new Rag and Bone
Okay.
CD.
Eclectic.
Very eclectic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what other hobbies have you got, John?
What other hobbies? I do an online blog. I've done that every day for 6 years.
Okay.
So that's the first thing I do when I get up
Right.
in the morning, is either finish off what I'm going to do for the day or upload it, and it's just a very irreverent, tongue-in-cheek look at the world. So tomorrow's is about Jeff Bezos going to space.
Okay.
Today's was about Harry and Meghan's new daughter.
Yep.
And I couldn't quite remember whether it was Lilibet or Likes-a-Bet or Lilliput. So yeah, it's just kind of looking at topical news stories and just spinning them
Playing with them.
a little bit. Yeah. So I enjoyed doing that. Obviously theatre, films, travel, the usual things you put on your CV that sound really dull when you actually say them out loud. Yeah,
But get you excited.
Yeah, no real secret
Okay.
passion.
Do you have hidden talent?
No, probably not. If we'd have been doing this back in 2000, I could probably have done it in Bengali. So I was
Okay.
reasonably competent to be able to hold a conversation with anybody that I met.
Yep.
Thankfully, my teaching was in English, but if the students didn't understand the English, I was good enough to explain respiration
Okay.
in basic Bengali, so that, you know, somebody could say, oh, this is what he's saying. So yeah, I guess that would be my hidden talent. I'm not as good
out of practice
as I was now, simply because I'm not over there living with a Bengali speaking family and having to converse. So that would be my hidden
Very good.
talent.
What would you say is your greatest achievement?
Again, that's difficult picking one. If it was something physical, it would be doing the Santiago de Compostela pilgrimage walk.
Okay, yeah.
800 kilometres across northern Spain.
I've watched the film.
Yeah. The film makes it look easy.
Yeah.
So that would be something that was a kind of physical challenge. If it was something personal, I guess it's what I did working out in India and the families that I've been involved with. If it was something spiritual, I guess it would be getting Andrew Charlesworth through his ministerial training.
For that we are eternally thankful.
You know, because I'm sure when Andrew reads that poem about walking along the beach with the footsteps, and he gets to the stage where there's only one set of footsteps, he does realise that those are the moments where I carried him through college.
There we go.
So I think that would be my greatest.
And you're here carrying him now as well.
You said that, Mark. I couldn't possibly agree with that, but yes. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any tenuous links to a celebrity?
They would be very, 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 very tenuous. But whilst working out in Calcutta, they obviously made a film, City of Joy.
Right.
So I got to meet and have lunch and dinner on a couple of occasions with the cast of the film.
Okay.
So that would be Pauline Collins, Patrick Swayze, Art Malik. The director was Roland Joffe, just because they wanted to speak with people who had done the kind of work that was being portrayed in the film. So it's very, very tenuous. I haven't lived next door to anything like that, but yeah, that would be it. Yeah.
Okay. And something about you that nobody knows, or very few people know.
The thing about me that very few people know is that for the first 7 years of my life, my family never had to pay for a holiday, because I was the winner of the Tiny Tots, or the father and son, or the mother and son. And you know, I will let you take this and scan this, and you can put this up. But just you know, there it is. So we did a tour of all the Butlins camps. Yeah. Simply because, as you can see, it's been maintained. I was just gorgeous.
So you hustled them all.
Yeah, I did. So that is my that's something that very few people know about.
And very few people would guess.
Very few people would guess. I keep my light hidden under a bushel.
Under a beard.
Yeah, under a beard and behind some glasses. Yeah.
Okay. So did you bring a random item with you? It tells us something about who you are.
The random item would be something that I was given, which was, I guess you'd call it it's a little dog tag, I guess. That
okay. Goes with your dog collar.
Around their, around their necks. It was something I was given by the physiotherapy department when I left to start pre-ordination training. And you can just about see it's Luke 3 verse 18, which I have to admit I had to go and look up, but it is, and with other exhortations John went and preached the good news.
Well, there we go.
Which I thought was quite nice of them to give me. So I've always kept it on my car keyring. So whenever I go out in the car, it kind of goes with me.
Very good. They'd done their research to find that one.
They had done their research because it's not an obvious verse.
No.
But it was quite nice that it was and John.
Yeah.
Goes out and does this. So
Very good. No, I'm impressed by that. Yeah, good work. So we found out a little bit more about you and what makes you tick and who you are.
Yeah.
Can you share with us a little bit more about your faith journey and why you've landed at this place called Christianity?
Oh gosh, okay. I can't say I was brought up in a church family, although I am led to understand one of my grandfathers, who passed away when I was quite young, was, I guess, the equivalent of a local preacher in the Methodist Church. By the time I arrived on the scene, certainly my mum and dad were too busy doing other things on a Sunday to go, but they were insistent that I went to the local Methodist Sunday school, which was just down the road, and my mum could have the advantage that she could look out the front door and make sure I'd walked down the road and gone in the door, but she also knew people from the chapel who would report back as to how well I'd behaved. So I started off doing that, and then my mum was insistent that I went to the Church of England school when I was kind of 11. So I was removed from the Methodists and placed in the local Anglican church in order to get confirmed. So I've done a local Church of England school from the age of 11 up until going to college at 18, and then, like most people, church was the furthest thing from my mind. Yep. So although there has been attending Christmas, Easter, the kind of people we complain about, that was me for a long time. And then I came back to becoming involved in a church through a friendship with a Methodist minister who was also a part-time chaplain at the hospital that I worked in. And we met, both of us, trying to encourage a lady to get out of bed after a hip replacement.
Right.
Me with my physio hat on and him through pastoral encouragement, and neither of us were successful, but we struck up a friendship, one that developed because I wasn't part of his church or his congregation.
Right.
And his wife soon realised that I was the perfect escape valve for whenever things got too much for him. So Ian and myself became really good friends and would go out for meals and pub quizzes, and then he was due to retire. And I said, "Oh, I'll come and see what you do before you go." And I was due to go on Easter Sunday and ended up going on Palm Sunday. Mix up of dates, times. And I turned up and I can't remember anything about the service apart from it was a baptism.
Okay.
And we got halfway through singing "Will You Come and Follow Me?" And that was it. I had this feeling, this voice, this whatever it is, this is what I want you to do. And it wasn't, and never has been, I want you to be a worship leader, I want you to be a local preacher, I want you to be that.
Okay.
And this was so out of the blue. So out of the blue, it was untrue. I had been asked at a previous Anglican church that I attended by the vicar jokingly, because of the work I'd done in India, had I ever considered the priesthood, and it was a no. It was a no. And even after this experience singing "Will You Come and Follow Me," I ran like Jonah in the opposite direction and was out in Calcutta again, and I attended another service at my most irritable. Now I know you probably find that, but at my most irritable. And halfway through the service, two of the congregation got up to sing, and they couldn't get their guitar to work, and they couldn't get the amplifier, and it was feedback, and it was horrible. And they finally got it sorted, and they sang a song that I had never heard and have very infrequently heard it since, called "Will You Be the One?"
Okay.
And again, the world just stopped. And I thought, well, I've run away from this for 6 months. I know I'm being called to do that, but I don't know how to get from here to there.
Right.
So I had to go back, and I was explaining to Ian what had been happening, and he'd been very good that he'd got me to come to the front of the church in this intervening 6-month period. And he said, I know you don't know what's happening, but could you tell other people? So I stood up and told other people about what I didn't know I was experiencing. And I think he was very clever in doing that. And things developed from there. By this time, Ian had left, retired, so I had to turn up on the door of a new minister who literally didn't know me from Adam.
Yeah.
Knocked on the door, kind of explained what it was, and he sent me away, and he said, come back in 4 months. Oh, okay. So I went away, came back in 4 months, and went through the same conversation. And if I asked David, he said he asked me a question and I spoke for 2 hours. 4 months later, when I'd gone back, he said, we went through the same kind of conversation. And I said, what's the difference between what I said before and what I say now? And he said, the difference is when you came before and I asked you why you felt you should do this, your answer was because I could, because I can. And he said, your answer now is almost because it's something I can't not do, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
You know, because you would go, well, I can stand up in front of people and I'm academic and I could do the study and I can do this. He said, and that was the subtle change. So again, that kind of set me off. And simply because I was in a Methodist church, I happened to be a Methodist minister.
Okay.
So I did the local preacher training, and then went through all the various committees and jumping through hoops, and I just about got to the point where I just had enough, and it was the final selection committee that you go through to decide, are you going to go on to pre-ordination training? And I got a phone call to say, John, you've been chosen to go to Atlanta in Georgia. And somewhere along the process, I had ticked a box on a form that said, would I be interested in being a part of, an exchange student? Yeah. And I think because of what I'd done in India, and because I was single, and because they were pretty certain I wouldn't come back after 3 weeks, I got chosen to do that. So I spent a year at the Candler School of Theology at Emory University in Atlanta. And the second part of that exchange was I spent a year at Wesley College, Wesley House in Cambridge, which was obviously where I met Andrew, and we shared a year going through the final stages of our training together. So why a Methodist? I was just friends with a Methodist minister.
Just where you landed.
And I happened to be in a Methodist church when this happened, and I had people who didn't laugh out loud at the suggestion that this is what I thought I had experienced, and allowed me to explore and engage with that process.
Brilliant. So you've actually answered quite a few of these questions in a oneer. So I'm going to just slightly amend that second question. Why have you stuck with the Methodist Church? What do you think it is about the Methodist Church that's kind of distinct, or that has something exciting about it?
I think there's less of a hierarchy within the Methodist Church. I like the fact that the laity have a far greater involvement. Wesley's idea of spreading scriptural holiness, I quite like, and doing all you can, wherever you can, for whoever you can, whenever you can,
with as much coffee as you can.
Yeah, whatever way you can. It seems a very grounded denomination, as opposed to one that is more steeped in ritual and performance and dressing up and all that kind of stuff. And the Methodist Church, in its grace, has put up with me. So it's a two-way thing. Yes, there are things I don't like about how we operate, but by and large, to take somebody with the lack of church background, shall we say, who just turned up and said, I think this has happened, and to allow me to explore that and to support me and to send me to America and then to give me a year in Cambridge and provide everything that comes with the job and all the support that's in the background that people don't kind of see.
Yeah.
I think it's a good fit. I don't think I would have fitted in some of the other denominations, should I say. So this, you know, it may not be a round peg in a round hole, but it's not too much of a distortion to fit me into what is required.
Very good. What Bible story or passage or verse kind of best illustrates to you what you believe to be important about the Christian faith and how you live it?
Oh, if you were asking me for a favourite verse and the one that resonates most with me, it would be from Luke's Gospel and his trilogy of Lost.
Okay.
You know, lost coin, lost sheep, lost son. And I think it's chapter 15, 20. And when he was still far off, his father saw him and had compassion and ran towards him and kissed him. And it's just that understanding that it doesn't matter how far you've gone away. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter all the things in the past. If you take that initial hesitant, tentative step back towards God, with your eyes cast at the floor or your shoes because you're too ashamed to look up, then when you do, you've got God running towards you.
Yeah.
And just overjoyed and excited that you have come back, you know, you. And I guess it just kind of felt, having been a part of the church in my early years and then drifted away, when I came back and had this calling, this encounter, this experience, it was like being welcomed home. And I guess it's trying to extend that same unconditional come in, come back if you've been before, come in for the first time if you've never been. Stand there and I'll come to you. You don't need to come to where I am. I'll come and meet you where you are, and then we'll walk the rest of the journey, and we won't keep it quiet. It's not going to be a family secret, but we're going to shout. We're going to shout it from the rooftops and have this huge party that you, who have drifted away or never been part or never felt welcome, are now back in the fold.
Brilliant. Thank you. We can have a pause in a little minute to give people a chance to stretch their legs and whatever, and to have a sing along to a hymn or a worship song. Now, what are you going to pick for us? Is a hymn or a song that kind of has spoken to you recently?
I don't want it to be either.
Okay. You're going to stretch us, are you?
If it was a worship song, I would pick Suzanne's version of Love Divine.
Okay. Yep.
Because that's been the best thing I've heard in ages. But I would pick something else. I would pick a song called On a Good Day by Tim Keegan.
Okay.
And there's a reason behind that song. I was moving from Swansea back up to what would have been Poynton, to be near my mum and to be near Ian, who was in poor health and in a wheelchair. And to cut a very long story short, 2 days before I left Swansea, my mum died. And 6 months after arriving in Poynton, Ian died. So I had a very disorganised leaving in Swansea.
Yeah.
I'd lost my support network there. The people in Poynton, bless them, just didn't know me, didn't know my mum, didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And just as we were getting things on track, the one person that I would have gone to for advice, he died. And there was a period of 6 months where life was crap.
Yeah.
To the extent that, you know, I would get up and do what I needed to do, and then I'd just go to bed. And I knew about this song, and it is literally written from the point of view of, this is where you are, but on a good day. On a good day, this is possible.
Okay.
And it's a song that I had on repeat. You know, the joys of modern music centres is you just press a button and it's just on repeat.
Yeah.
And I probably listened to that day in, day out, day in, day out for 6 months. And I came across a live version a few weeks ago. I never thought the original could be better, but the live version is just so chilled and laid back. But it's the song that I go to after a shocking church council, after a staff meeting that's been really... When something's gone wrong,
Yep.
it's okay, but on a good day.
So it helps recenter.
And it's, you know, just coming in the hallway of the house, the lyrics of the song are up on the door. And that would be the song. You know, if I had to go to a desert island and take a song,
Okay.
that would be the song. So if we can get away with putting that
I'll
up
do
there,
what I can.
If not, Suzanne's version of Love Divine.
Brill.
I just thought that was beautiful.
Let's have a listen then, shall we?
Good day, I can see through the clouds. On a good day, I can say it all out loud. I know who I am, I know what to say, I know where I'll be a year from today. On a good day, on a good day, on a good day. It's not all just circles in the sand. On a good day, I don't think I'm a bad man. The search for truth and love that brought me to here will carry me on. I've got nothing to fear on a good day. On a good day. I've got plenty of reasons to be happy. On a good day, I don't feel hopeless and empty. There is a purpose, it's not all a waste of time. I will not feel like this, everything is gonna be just fine. On a good day, on a good day, on a good day. Thank you.
Right, shall we carry on?
Yeah. Yeah, come on.
So, John, what in your role here in Nottingham North East do you get most excited about?
I think it's the opportunity across a circuit, not just within churches, but across a circuit, to journey alongside people in their faith journey.
Okay.
And I've often said, when leading Bible studies, there's no good me leading the study if I end up at the place where I already am.
Yeah.
So I always look at it that, yes, the people who come to the study, hopefully because of where I'm trying to guide them to, will leave with a different understanding or perspective, but also because of the contributions they make, or because of what I've had to do to put that together, I will end up at a different place. So it's a journey for both of us. We might be starting at different points, but we're both finishing at different places. So I enjoy doing that. I enjoy doing the creative things. It's the one thing that I've found overwhelmingly frustrating about lockdown, is you can't do anything. You can't set up installations, you can't get labyrinths in churches, you can't do prayer walk. So yeah, things that engage the senses I like doing. Working with the other members of staff and people within different churches, and just engaging and encouraging them to take not necessarily a leap of faith, sometimes it's just a small step of doing something different And it doesn't matter whether they've done it before and it didn't work. They can always have another go and try and do something. Those are the things I'd like doing. I like doing things quickly. I like having an idea from a conversation that we've had, and then by the time you've packed up and driven home, I've sat at the computer and mapped something out.
Okay.
I don't like, this is what the Methodist Church is going to get us doing, and then it just gets shelved.
Right.
You know, maybe I'm the dopamine hit, and that I need the deadline. I need something. I don't like long-term strategic 5-year
Right.
vision plans. I quite like, what do we do between now and Christmas? I can deal with that. We can get it done. We can do it. We can tick the box, and then what's the next thing? So I don't like talking round in circles. I'm quite happy just to be given a task and to set off and do it.
What bits of your role do you get least excited about? You've hinted at this already, but
yeah, it's anything. It's anything to do with the overarching but essential admin, paperwork, charity commission, all those kind of things. I don't particularly enjoy doing line management type things.
Yep.
It doesn't. It's not something that sits
okay.
well with me, because I'm not a great one for being line managed. I think, I can, things like our annual ministerial development reviews, and it's not something that's the highlight of my year. It needs to be done, or does it? That's always the that's always the question.
Okay.
So yeah, there are crosses to bear in the role.
So you've kind of hinted at this in the way that you were talking about how when you lead a Bible study, you need to grow as well as the other people that you're leading along the way or journeying with. But how do you keep yourself going? What spiritual practices do you find most helpful in your ongoing walk of faith?
I guess answering that, it isn't which I find most or least helpful. I think it's the honesty of saying I don't have a regular pattern of doing things. And when I listen to people who, that they get up and they've got this Bible reading first thing, and then it's half an hour of quiet time, and then that has never since the start of this been me.
Right.
It will be as and when it happens, either doing things for a service or doing things for a study, or reading that I happen to be doing at the time because it's something that engages and interests me, or something that crops up on the news that makes me theologically reflect on what's happening. But yeah, it's not part of my day-to-day life as a Christian and as a Christian minister.
Right.
To be able to say I have a set time when I do this, or I do that, or I do the other. Some days can be lost exploring scripture, or exploring themes, or exploring songs to use in services, and then there would be other days where that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And I think being honest being honest in admitting that people in my position aren't the dedicated followers of a routine of spiritual practices.
I think that's a helpful and a useful thing for us to hear. Again, it's not about me, but I think I probably fall into that category a little bit. But kind of what I'm hearing and what I understand from what you're saying is that it comes back to this this idea that comes from the Iona community, this idea of having thin places where actually as you go about life, you might have those chances for reflection.
Yeah.
So it might be something on the news, it might be something you've listened to, it might be a film, and it sounds like you're open to that rather than sitting at a desk and reading.
I think of the family that I lived with in Bangladesh, and if I compare the mum and the dad, the mum would stop whatever she was doing 5 times a day religiously, and I don't use that as a pun,
Yep.
to go and pray. The father never did. And I asked him about that once, and he would say it was just a different way of doing things, but if he was making something, or playing with his kids, or engaging with somebody, or out for a walk, he would attempt to find God in those moments. Whereas for his wife, she was much happier setting aside, when everybody else was praying, the 5
Yep.
times during the day. And I guess it's a little bit like that, really. You know, I'd like to think I was open to wherever God is and whatever God is active doing and being and leading. And you don't notice it all the time.
Yep.
And sometimes you've got your eyes shut, sometimes you've got blinkers on. On other occasions, as you said, you know, like the thin places, the moments. You know, why did I have that experience sat in a church in Whitley Methodist Church? Why did I have a similar one in Calcutta?
Yep.
And both of those have been big enough and authentic enough to allow me to move from where I was to where I am here.
Yep.
But it has been a question through every committee and stage in candidacy about my lack of
Structure.
in my spiritual life.
I think there is, or hopefully, assuming we get the hundreds of viewers, there will be hundreds of people saying, phew, it's not just me.
I hope so. I hope so, because, you know, people may put members of the clergy in their different ministries up on a pedestal as being super spiritual.
Yeah.
And although we are,
It doesn't always look the same.
it's not often as you would perhaps expect it to be. You know, the thought of having to do the daily office every day
That
doesn't
diaconal rhythm doesn't quite fit.
That wouldn't be me. No.
Okay, there we go. So within all of that then, what have you learnt recently about God that you'd like us all to hear?
I think that during this past 14 months, I think it has opened people's eyes to how they can engage with their community, to engage with people that they live alongside but don't even know what their names are or who they are, in ways that live out, you know, the ethics, the morality, the practices of what being a good Christian is.
Mm-hmm.
To be there for others, both during the times when life isn't great, but also during the good times, during the celebrations, during the happy occasions, which there have been.
Yeah.
During this. And I hope that that continues. I have my doubts that as people go back to the new different and all the things that they haven't been able to do, that they soon will be able to do, I think some of it will be lost, but I think some of it will stay. And I think the sense of community and togetherness and looking out for one another, I think that will hopefully remain. And that isn't exclusive to people of the Christian faith or people of any faith. It can be people of no faith. And I think we need to acknowledge that, and we need to utilise people from those different areas, whether they be part of our church, part of our circuit, part of our denomination, part of our faith, or not. The more people can come and work together for a common purpose and a common good, well, I think it will make where we all live a better place.
Brilliant. So what is your, I mean, again, this might fall into the same thing you just said, but what is your hope or your vision for the people of Nottingham North East as we move forward? So what do you sense God might be calling us to, or where our kind of journey is leading us?
I think it would be two things. I think it would be, firstly, and these two things are in no particular order. So the first of those would be that we discover and we develop things, projects, purposes, ways of living out our discipleship as a circuit, so that gives more of a link between the individual families of faith.
Yep.
But I also hope that we are able to recognise that each of those individual families of faith are distinct, and depending on their building, their structure, their resources, whether that be people, money, skills, their context, where they are, that each of those churches, each of those church families will be able to contribute in different ways. So what's good for Rice Park isn't going to fit the box for Thurgerton.
Yeah.
What not all really struggle with, Arnold's might be absolutely fine. And it may be that we can stop hoping that all our churches can do everything that every other church is doing,
Yep.
and simply celebrate what churches are able to do, given where they are, given who they are, and given what they perceive their role within their community is. And so we can celebrate something little that's happened as well as something major.
Yep.
And it's not just thinking about the all singing, all dancing, packing them in on a Sunday churches, but it's the ones who've just got a regular, faithful congregation, but who, by channeling God's grace and love and peace and compassion, can make a difference where they are.
Brilliant. Sounds like a place that is worth being.
Yeah, I hope so.
Can you pray for us?
I can.
Thank you.
Loving God, as we sit here in the sunshine, as we listen to the sounds of the birds in the trees surrounding us, as we listen to the gentle hum of the traffic rushing along the bypass, we thank you that we have been able to find this space to come and to sit, to engage in conversation, to discover a little bit more about how Nottingham North East is all about its people, all about its brothers and sisters united in and through the faith that we share. As we emerge out of the situation we have found ourselves in for the past year and a half, as we take those first tentative steps of reopening our buildings, of coming together as worship, I pray that we don't then hide inside our buildings. We don't simply look inwards, but we use the experiences, we use the gifts, the skills of people who make up the church, and we use them to look out, to look forward into whatever the future holds, to whatever this God that we believe and trust in is calling us towards. Open our eyes, open our hearts, our ears, our mouths. Equip us to become engaged in where God currently is and where God is currently active. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, John.
Pleasure. You could just leave the sound effects on. This is what it sounded like.
Yep.
Tom and Mark
The
enjoying
taste and the sound.
mid-morning Indian snackettes.